Good evening, everyone out there on YouTube. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. This is going to be part 5 of the battle for the 5.4, which is the 5.4 liter in my 1997 Ford E150 Starcraft conversion van. And it had a twist of events. It looks like this engine may still have some life left in it after all, so let's get into it. Alright guys, please excuse the fan. It's summer's here in Florida and it's getting quite hot. So where we left off was I was doing all that testing. I came over here and I had a chocolate volcano coming out of the degas bottle over here, and I thought head gasket was gone. So I did more research and I learned that before I condemned the engine that there is a decent chance that the oil cooler has failed. Yeah, oil cooler, yeah. So not every single 5.4 ever made has an oil cooler, but most of them do. So let me show you what that looks like. Alright, angle's kind of weird here, but bear with. So in this case, the oil cooler is what the oil filter is connected to, and it has, I'll do it that way because I can see, so I can point. So those two lines there are for coolant, and you may see something that is not coolant that is dripping out of there. That is oil. That's straight engine oil. So what can happen is I think how this is designed is you've got a metal tube in the center that runs up into the block and down into the filter, and then the metal ring around that is where the coolant circulates to warm up or help maintain the oil temp, right? So what can happen, I think, is that the center tube fails, or there's a gasket that's further up the line on the other side of the cooler. It fails, and when that happens, you've got 50 pounds of oil pressure versus 16 pounds of pressure in your coolant system when it's fully warmed up. You can kind of figure out what's going to happen there. So oil forces its way into the coolant, and if it fails really bad, it forces in a spectacular fashion, and you get Choco Volcano up at the radiator bottle. So a way you can test for this is put your cooling system on a bypass, which I did with just it's a 3/4 inch elbow. So I just connect it to the elbow and then just crank the engine. And if your separation between coolant and oil has failed, this one or both of these nipples here are going to start peeing oil. And that is exactly what I saw. Cranked it, it was running, and it just started to pee oil. Just straight line. Unfortunately, I had a pan here, so no worries, but that verified I've got a bad cooler. Now, when you go online, you can get some Chinesium coolers, like $35, or if you get the Ford part from a dealership, it's about $130. Considering what this is, what it does, and how it could absolutely destroy you if you're driving down the road and you don't know, I bought the Ford part, Motorcraft. And I will pick that up on Thursday, and when we get to there, I will actually make a separate video on how to replace it. But I feel greatly relieved. The engine's running great. I found the source of the contamination into the coolant, and we can get that fixed. For now, if you were in this situation and you couldn't wait to get the part replaced, what you can do is get some 3/4 inch hose, unions, whatever, and loop these two nipples together. If you loop them together, then you've completely separated the oil and cooling systems at that point, and though the cooler has failed, you will no longer have oil going into coolant, because your coolant is looped right there, right? Now you're going to have suffer a little bit of engine performance, maybe EGR, stuff like that, because the oil temp's not going to be quite what the computer wants, but as long as you're not towing heavy or something like that, you'll be fine. So that is my next step, is to try to track down a 3/4 inch piece of hose, loop this so that way I can continue with my oil flushing and now coolant flushing, since Choco Volcano, and now the cooling system's entirely full of oil, which sucks. I drained it, but there's still gonna be a bunch of garbage in there. I already have radiator flush. So anyway, I've been blathering a lot. So that. Okay guys, so updates. I ran a radiator flush. So I guess let's start out with, I looped the nipples on the cooler, so that took care of the leaking oil, and I've got the oil cooler bypass, so that took care of the coolant. With that done, everything has stayed clean and good. The engine's running great. So went ahead, as you can see, I put some Dawn dish soap into the cooling system. I also put a Prestone radiator flush product in. I've let it idle more or less about 2 hours, because that's all I can do at the moment. This thing's not in any condition to be driven around at the moment. And this is the second drain. So the first drain was just draining water, try to grab what we could with water, and then it was filled back up with water, and this is with the additives I just mentioned that we put in. So I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but it looks like watery oil, so I think we're heading the right direction. In any case, I'm gonna let this drain down. I think it's something like 12 quarts wind up coming out. So if you got like a little 10 quart pan like this, you're gonna have to stop, drain it, and then continue. But take a look at everything, and I'll decide whether or not I put coolant in or I put water back in. So keep you guys posted, but things are definitely moving in the right direction. I'll have a new oil cooler on Thursday. Hello everyone, today is a new day. So this is a sample of the kind of stuff that I'm getting out of the cooling system after running some Dawn through it and some cleaner through it. I'm just going to keep filling it and draining it with tap water until this is somewhat clear. And I'm going to fill it, and then I'm going to have to let the engine run to where the thermostat opens so I get full circulation, so I can get the garbage that's currently in the block out. Alternatively, and I may do this afternoon, there should be a block drain that I can reach, at least on one side, maybe both sides, and if I can safely crack that open, I can go ahead and get the stuff that's in the block without having to run the engine and circulate it. But I'm going to try to get this as clean as possible before putting antifreeze in it, because, you know, just want to get all that crap out and make it as clean as I can. So I just want to let you know, this is like a mix of oil and oil bonded with soap and rust and other garbage that's just built up in the cooling system, because I think that the oil cooler had a slow leak for quite a while and the previous owner did not realize it. I didn't realize it until it finally just completely gave up and then just started to spew oil through the cooler. But it's hurt. I'm trying to clean it up, so let's see what the next pan looks like after we do another fill and drain. Okay guys, another quick update. So I have flushed the normal kind of the radiator part of the system as much as I could, to the point where I've got fairly clear water coming through, which is great. But I was researching how much this cooling system holds, and the answer is it's 28 quarts, give or take a few. For those playing along at home, that's 7 gallons of coolant, and I was not getting that out through the petcock, so I went ahead and I cracked a block drain, and this is what I got. So the block drain is an 8mm hex, and the one I cracked was on the driver's side. It's on the block above the oil filter and oil cooler, directly below the freeze plug. You've got easy access on the driver's side. If you're truly dedicated, there's also a drain on the passenger side, but it is completely 100% blocked by the starter. And you need to take the starter off to get at it. They're put in pretty tight. They do use a pipe dope, but it's not red Loctite, so don't fear. But this is truly disgusting. So, like, what even is that? Do I even want to know what that is? Probably not. I'm hoping that's just a leaf. But anyway, I'm going to dump this. I'm going to force some more junk through the block drain to flush out that side. And I'm hoping between getting basically 2/3 of the system flushed pretty thoroughly, I'm going to be okay. Because I really don't want to take the starter off. I have a bad history with starters. They always seem to break when I try to take them off. So, yeah, don't want to touch it. Alright guys, just to give you some context on where the block drain is. There it is. You see it's directly below this freeze plug. And right there is your exhaust. And right over here is your oil cooler and filter. So, give you some idea. This is kind of dripped, I guess, over 2 days now. I hadn't had time to get to this. I'm going to put the block drain back in. And then I'm going to start working on removing the starter so I can get to the other drain and then flush it. And once that's all done, I can finally do a full, complete flush with a flushing agent so that I can keep working towards making some repairs and things like that. Hey guys, this is what I'm using: Blue Devil Radiator Flush and Oil Degreaser, since I had an oil intrusion I need to take care of. The TLDR here is that a 1 quart container is supposed to work on 12 quarts of cooling system. Once you pour this in, you have 4 hours to do what you're going to do. You need to get it out before you run out of time, because this is corrosive. It will begin to eat away at the aluminum of your radiator. So, this will get the job done. It gets good results, but don't leave it in your system too long. You will screw something up. So, I actually have 2 quarts of this. I didn't realize it was only a 12 quart thing. The total cooling system on this vehicle is 28 quarts, 30 quarts if you have rear heater core, which this one does have. So I'm just going to throw two bottles in there, fill it up, and run it. And we will see what happens. I'll probably run it for about 2 hours. That way I have plenty of time to thoroughly flush the system to avoid any complications from using this product. Okay, we're about an hour and a half into our 2 hour idle session here. I did have to stop it at one point because I had an air bubble that had formed. I needed to get more water in, so I shut it down, got more water in, and then the jiggle valve got a little bit stuck on the water on the thermostat. So we had to squeeze and manipulate the upper rad hose. Got that working. Thermostat's working okay now. We're just letting it idle. But you will have to maybe stop it once or twice to top off fluids if you did both the block drain and the petcock up front. It's been floating between 203 and 207 on the ECT. Trims look amazing. It's been sitting right at 800. So we're looking pretty good. I'll bring you back once we hit 2 hours and do shutdown, and then I start draining the petcock. Okay, our 2 hours of idling are done, and now we're starting drain. Just to give some context, the last time I was running water through here, it was clear. So the degreaser cleanser, it got busy. So I'll continue along this process, and I'll bring you back for any highlights. Yummy. Hey guys, the oil looked really great coming out, so I'm going to go ahead and make this next fill my first kind of operational fill. So I'm going to put a nice filter on it instead of a Wally World filter. Triton 5.4 takes a 51372 XP for a Wix XP filter. I'm going to spin that on there real fast just to keep it from leaking, because I still got to take the cooler down, but I need the pan to move because I need to be there so that I can crack the block drain. So I'm going to spin that on and then get on with it. Alright, so this is the second go round. I already cleared the block drain and then put it back in. So we're working with the petcock again. As you can see, the water's not coming out orange anymore, it's coming out clear, but it is still carrying rust and other junk in it. So I'm going to flush this a bit until I'm happy, and then we'll close it up, let it drain, close it up, and then I have the parts to switch to replace the lower radiator hose and the upper radiator hose, and I'm also going to replace the defective oil cooler. Alright, so we've got pretty much everything drained. We started getting this. I think this came from the side of the block I couldn't drain. So I think overall we're in good shape. And now I'm going to start pulling hoses so that I can get the lower rad hose out. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is a new day. So I didn't film it because I was under time pressure. Hey, what else is new? But we buttoned up everything last night, put in fluids last night, finished putting in fluids today. I replaced the system belt, replaced the idler pulley because those were going to be potential issues down the road. Replaced the pressure cap on the radiator. This is a Dorman part because we were suspecting the cap wasn't behaving correctly. Fired it off. It ran great. Thermostat didn't give us any guff this time. Cycled perfectly. No check engine lights. I took a look under the vehicle. Take a look yourself. Not really anything down there that's new. So we got up to operating temp and cycled. We were at full oil pressure and full coolant pressure and no leaks, which means the work we did last night was good. So I'm going to call that the end of part 5. I'm going to say that for now it looks like the 5.4 has been saved. Time will tell. We don't know how much damage was done to the main bearings, and the only way we're going to know is just to drive it and see what the oil shows us as I continue to do oil changes and see what comes up.